Welcome to Two Facet, a podcast about building digital products. Hosted by Matt Mikulski, product manager, and myself, Juncal González, product designer. Join us to listen to our conversations about product development and how each role sees it from their perspective. Let's start. Hello, listeners. This is episode number 4. We're super happy to be here today. Today we are going to talk about roadmaps, and I'm Juncal, and I'm here with Matt. Hey, Matt.
Yeah. Hi. Hello.
So
I'm
we're going to talk about roadmaps today, right? You're an expert on this, I think.
Matt. I don't perceive myself as an expert, but I guess I have some, feelings about them or opinions. And yeah, for sure, I would love to cover today like what is a product roadmap, and then I would also talk a bit about like example of different roadmaps you can build depending on like a need or where you're in the organization.
Perfect. And I also, from my side, will talk about how I see it, like when I receive a roadmap, when I need to work on things from it, so how I perceive it from the other side as well. And yeah, probably we can have a nice discussion today.
Yeah. Okay. So classically, let's start from why. So why this topic? Tell me.
Yeah, so I chose this topic, and it's not a super sexy topic for designers, I know. But the reason why I originally asked you this question, like what is a roadmap and how you define this, is because of the willingness to understand why are we working on a specific project instead of another one. And let me explain this a bit more. So when you start at the beginning as a designer, more like an entry level or junior level, you're super focused on learning the craft of interaction patterns and using the design tools, designing the screens, probably as well some user testing, and you get involved in some research, but everything is still superficial. You're still learning, and there is always this long list of things you should be doing and you will be doing next, the so-called backlog kind of thing. And I guess at the beginning you're super focused on learning your craft and not so much on why this backlog, right? But as soon as you start getting deeper on what is being human-centered and the human-centered design, and you start learning more about understanding your users, you might start wondering, or at least this is what happened to me, right? And I think other designers can recall this. You start thinking, okay, this user has a lot of problems to solve, right? So there's a lot of things I can do with my product to help this user. So why are we focusing on this feature, on this product, on this list of things to do instead of other ones? And I guess this comes from the roadmap.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Of course. So maybe let's start from like what's a roadmap from more like a definition level. So I will jump to prioritization right away, but let's just to have it there. So like let's say the product roadmap is a plan of action for how product or solution will evolve over time. So let's assume this is like what we want to have there, and then classic roadmaps that you see usually are well defined. So they're like on the operational level. So they're showing like a current work of a team. So it's like more tasks or shaped ideas that are shown next to each other, like in Jira, let's say. So you have like a timeline, like you have a timeline over which you have different blocks and different features that the team is working on. So this is like a classic roadmap. And I guess this is the one that the people see the most often. They can come in ways of backlog, then they can come in ways of sprints. So you can imagine you're working in Scrum. So then you have somehow backlog divided into next 4 sprints, or for some reason the product person or whomever is in charge of a strategy set up like, hey, those are the 5 steps we need to do, and then from them the team creates a sprint. It's like a classic way that happens there. And that one is the most commonly used, but it's super important on them also to show why you're working on given things. Then you can use different tools for that. So you can use tools like Jira or anything else that has some visual context to that, and try to just give it to the team and then connect it to the right milestones or epics, and then describe them well so the team can read what it means and then reuse that. What I like to do is using like periodization frameworks. So working with a backlog or list of ideas or feedbacks or anything else by periodizing them. In my case, I'm usually using the ICE scoring, so it's impact, confidence, effort. So with every idea, you need to think about, hey, how much impact can it have to my goals, whatever the goals are. So, and this is something that you as a product person or as a designer or anybody from like a product team can easily challenge and ask. Like, okay, so you said it's 10 in terms of an impact. Why it's 10? Like, what's the story? Why we believe it's going to be so impactful to our plans? Then you have confidence. So confidence is a bit more structured one. So this shows you how many evidences you have for that idea. So, or a bet. So does you have it as a recurring feedback from customers, or maybe it's something that every competitor on the market has, or you already launched an MVP and you have like people screaming for, hey, this feature doesn't work, but I'm gonna shovel bugs on you. This is something you can put there. So if it's like third iteration of an idea, or it's like a super novel idea that nobody has and you want to build a teleportation machine. So there is not much evidence that it can be built, so the confidence around that is super small. The same is like if you are feeling good about the idea, or it's aligned with the team, or your CEO says it's a good idea, it's like 1 in a scale of 10. So because it's not an evidence, it needs to still base everything on knowledge. And then the last is effort. So how easy or how hard it is for the team to produce. And then using this kind of metaphors for explaining why we are working on a given thing or we are not working on a given thing, for me personally during the career was the easiest to open the conversation with the team, because those are tangible things that you can easily categorize and talk about them openly. So of course this requires some level of, I don't want to call it seniority, but some level of understanding the customer or understanding the user you're building for. Yeah. So once you understand for whom you're building, you can judge how impactful it can be. So if we would roll back to the last episode with design thinking, once you're empathizing with the user, you can actually say, no, I believe that's not that impactful and it's not impacting them every day, but here is something else. Yeah. And then what this formula builds for you at the end is you multiply all of those numbers, and then you get the score. Once you sort by the score, you basically get potentially the most impactful ideas on the top that you can produce. And using things like this is great, because when you combine it, let's say, with Lean Startup, then you don't start any of the ideas with like 6 months of development. You start with experiments, MVPs, and all of this stuff. So then over time, this idea bank or bet bank can actually evolve. So something that was on top after the first experiment, you can validate that it's not that impactful. we're much more confident about it because we launched something, but it's not that impactful. So we don't want to invest more time into it. And then,
Yeah. So.
Yeah.
Go.
No, please. If you have any comment, please come. I can talk for hours.
I was going to say something and now I kind of forgot. So.
Okay, so I'll continue then. No problem. So the other thing that's worth noting about roadmaps in general, so whether you use tasks or you use idea banks or you prioritize them, is important to know what you're showing to whom. So I do believe you can divide roadmaps into like internal roadmaps that are used for the team. And then usually there are on some level of like technical tasks. You can call them to-do list, you can call them backlog, you can call them a roadmap, but you see on like thinking of us. So for our customers, listeners, we work right now with Juncal in 6 weeks development cycles that are divided into 4 different batches of different time. So we see our roadmap for the next 6 weeks. Like I can build a roadmap, but the elements of it are, execution tasks basically. So those are like design stuff, let's build some stuff, integrate this with that one. So those are like day-to-day work with the team. And then this can be visualized, like we do this on to-do lists. You can do it in Jira, you can do it in plenty of other tools. Then the other level of a roadmap I believe that should exist is this problem-centric one, or strategy level more. So you zoom out a bit from we are building features to why we are building those features and how important it can be in a longer run. So an example may be, in our case, we are working on a software that's international, but have a heavy customizations per country. Like coming from legal perspective, we need to work a bit differently in a given country. So whenever we are working and thinking about strategically, we don't think about prescription in Poland. We think about prescriptions in general, and then that's gonna require a few steps, and it's gonna be 6 different prescriptions. But then we know and we can map like how impactful it's gonna be for a whole business. Or we can think about things that we may build for one country and prioritize that for country, but maybe there are parts that can be reused. So if you zoom out and start thinking about them in more like, abstract pieces of like, hey, how to build it for those 6 countries and how we can scale it there, and try to get less detail from it, I guess.
This is super interesting.
Then the prioritization is also different. Yeah, and the prioritization is also different. And this is kind of a roadmap you use more for talking with executives.
Okay.
Let's call them this way. So, in case when you want to talk with like sales manager or sales director or whatever title this person gonna have, it's much easier to talk with him about, hey, we're gonna offering this and this in those countries, and those are the pieces, and this is why we want to do it. The same with the marketing. So it's not that important for them how the prescription works. Like, I mean, it is important at the end, but at like strategy level, it's not that important. It's important of the fact if we're gonna have it and it's gonna be legal and it's gonna be on time. So for them, it's you are thinking more on a problem level, not the ideas or how the solution gonna look like. And then you have yet another type of a roadmap that's like a sales roadmap, especially in the companies like ours that are heavily sales backed. You have a sales roadmap when they are super interested into features in time, so they don't care about problem we are solving, because we work with zooming out and thinking about problems from ideas and trying to shake the market. But they hear from the doctor like, hey, I need the feature A, and it's named for this guy. How it's gonna work and stuff, they don't care. They just want to have it and say to the doctor, hey, it's gonna be in a month, or say it's not gonna be in 6 months.
Okay.
So and then you work again a bit on tasks, but you communicate more those that you are sure about delivery of them. So once you can start, delivering in like predictable time as a team, then you can start communicating with the sales team, and it's also easier for them then. And the communication about the product and everything else is a bit more coherent, let's say, in such cases.
But so we are talking of 3 levels of roadmap here. One, the strategic level, more for the management, or maybe like the higher part of the company. Then another one for the team, and then another one for the sales. But I understand they are not 3 different ones. It's like different ways of communicating it and different levels of the solution, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. And then those are forms, and the rest is tools. So anybody can have their own tool set of I using software A and I use software B and I just run it in Excel. So everybody picks their tools, but the general idea is the same. Then there's also fourth one that we unfortunately don't do currently in Doc Planner, which is the customer's roadmap. And that one is a kind of different one. So usually you curate that one a bit more. So you carefully pick features you show on this roadmap that is like customers public available, to hype them about these features. I mean, there are different approaches. Of course, you can just do plain roadmap of being transparent and showing everything. But usually the practices, those are the more beautiful ones. So you use a bit more software and design there. And you try to show customers what's coming next to, hype them about the next releases, and you can then use them for research and, all kinds of stuff that comes from customers see things before they are built. Wow. Yeah, this is something.
Okay, what you're showing.
I had some experience with, but yeah.
Yeah. No. What you're showing to whom? This is the super interesting point I just learned, because as part of the product team, I'm super used to just the one you communicate to the team, and this is the one you said you use the impact, confidence, effort score to communicate, right? Which one to choose. So from my experience, when you've been in the team communicating the roadmap with this impact, confidence, effort framework, I think this is super valuable, because in these agile environments, and especially in the digital products, and if you're on a startup, you work surrounded by uncertainty, because a lot of times it's the first time you do something with the technology, or the first time the user is going to receive that product or that feature. And in this kind of environments, the personality or the attitude that fits very well is people who are creative and have initiative, and as you said, wants to challenge the thing and wants to challenge the status quo. So I think it's super interesting that how the decision is made with this scoring is well communicated, because as part of the team, I want to know I'm contributing to an outcome and why, right? Rather than just picking a task or picking a ticket. And that's basically honey to my heart. I mean, that's something that I believe is crucial in any product team. I know it's not the main topic, sorry for super quick off topic, but the motivation in a product team to understand why they're building should come always first. Like this is the first job when creating a team, is to try to create this motivation that people don't just come and do tasks, but they understand why they do those tasks, because then the tasks are not important. Like any tasks you will create upfront whenever you want to solve any problem will change over time. So it's either you architect for the future or you just discover over time, and usually discovery is just much better and easier for you to handle with the stress. So once the product team thinks in a way of why I am building that and understand that fully, you're gonna be much happier. And the solution as well are going to be better if you understand the why, instead of just receiving a detailed described task. So for like a super simple example, we are working on a feature for printing the medical history, and if the feature to do is a button on the top right corner of the screen to print, that would be more like a task rather than the user needs to print some documentation. And then this opens for a better solution, because maybe it's not a button or it's an action that can be placed somewhere else. It opens the team to find a better solution, and also promotes the customer-centric mindset, right? Because you've been thinking about the impact this will have probably on the user, right? So yeah, then all the team is thinking about the user, about this impact that we can have in his life with this change in the product.
Yeah, and that's every time much better. I mean, there are teams that need to work on the tasks level. There are technical stuff that's like well defined, and you are not reinventing the wheel. You just need to upgrade some stuff or refactor parts. But yeah, but even in such situations, from technical world is like when you want to refactor stuff, you super understand what the hell you're doing and like why this is burning and why you need to do it, because it's always pain. Like there's not many people that want to work on the old code and make it better. So you need to understand why you're touching that, especially like in the bigger systems that are a bit more complicated over years.
In this explanation of the why, the storytelling is super powerful. I can tell as the receiver in a way of the message. So I can tell the difference when there's a good storytelling communicating this decision of the impact. So you tell the story of the why. So yeah, just something I wanted to say. Yeah.
Good. Yeah, and I was saying a bit about roadmaps, like maybe not roadmaps, but I mentioned a bit refactoring and like let's call all of this technical debt. So maybe we could move on. I know there is a topic on our list about roadmaps and legacy.
Yeah. So for my experience as a designer, when you work in Agile, you unfortunately produce some UX legacy always, because you move super fast, and then as a designer you're aware of all this legacy you've created and that you are creating, and you want to fix it. You want the smoothest experience for the user, but then which one to fix, right? Because you're generating it on different parts of the product, on different areas, and design, it's not standalone, separated from the business, from the strategy and everything. So you might be seeing a screen that you don't like because it was badly designed, or it was not super good design at the moment, and you want to fix it. But maybe if you don't connect that into the strategy, into the roadmap, you are in the risk of putting effort and putting your work into a screen that may be soon deprecated, because maybe it doesn't have an impact on the user. It doesn't have much value in this moment with what the product is offering. So yeah, from my perspective, I would say it's super useful for the designer to be aware of the roadmap for two things. So one, if he's looking to remove UX legacy and do a redesign and improve some areas of the product, if he does it connected with the roadmap, which is what we are doing now and what we are going to do soon, it will have a bigger impact on the product and on the user for sure, because this is like where we are going as a business and as a product, to have the bigger impact. That's that on one side, and then on the other side as well, it's a super good opportunity to, when you are adding a feature on a screen, to take the opportunity to then remove the UX legacy on that screen. So if you're following the roadmap, you can take the opportunity of touching the screens we are touching on the roadmap, to have a bigger impact on the redesigns you do.
One more tip I would give to anybody that wants to advocate for any of this kind of a change. So, for example, technical debt or some UX legacy or redesign, those projects are always hard to sell to anybody and even harder to measure and all of those things. So let's think about it as a debt. So when you take like a loan from a bank, there's two ways of paying it up. So you can pay in installments like every month and pay all of the interest to the bank and things like this. So, or you can pay a bit more every month and maybe pay it out a bit faster, and then pay a little less interests, and it's gonna be a bit less painful in the longer run for you. So thinking about tasks or strategy or roadmaps, you may either keep iterating over things, and I don't believe this brings any. So let's say you have a lot of screens that are not that coherent, so you don't have any design system, any UI kit in place and anything like this. You may work on all of them, iterating them from time to time, and then hey, one day I will replace this screen and then another screen gonna be replaced. And it's gonna drive you to something. But I believe that as with loans, you're gonna pay a lot of interest along the way, and it's not gonna be that smooth. So what I like to promote a lot is trying to do a bit more paying than the regular installment would be. So if we are only about, hey, let's just change checkboxes, let's think why we are changing them, like in which places they're existing, and how this influence like a user engagement or usage of a platform. So once you think that level, you can think about things like, in our case, a lot of users are secretaries. So they work having a phone on their ear, a patient in front of them, and then they are clicking something in your software. So it's like 1.5 hand with super destructive experience. So if you produce them a long form, any redesign of that long form is a welcomed thing. I mean, you need to test it and size if this makes any sense, of course. But then you're not talking about let's change a form somewhere because they're not that pretty. You're thinking about, hey, how we can improve like a general experience of the user or the engagement over the platform. Similar with technical stuff. So performance hits everybody on B2B products. Like if you have performance problem, it's a problem, and you need to be able to face it and size it. And if it's not really a problem of performance, then maybe it's not that important. So trying every time to, whenever you're thinking about legacy, grouping that in a bigger use case, or trying to connect it back to user experience.
Exactly, yeah.
Which is, but all of those measurements like, NPS, CSAT, engagement, usage of a product, like all of this comes with, are impacted by those little UX legacy or technical debt things. But what usually happens is the teams are thinking at the solution level. So it's like, hey, we need to redesign something, or we need to refactor that part. And it's like, I know that people sometimes face problems with these ideas that they are not in any time done, and it's like, technical debt or UX legacy keep being there for years because nobody cares about them. So my tip is, once you try to connect it to why, as we are talking today, it's much easier to translate to executive language, and then you can actually impact the company goals, or you can find the time for such changes.
This is a super good tip. It's not easy to do, I would say, but it's super good, at least to start being aware that the redesign or the refactor per se, just as a standalone, doesn't bring any value really if it's not connected to as you said, to moving the metrics of the business forward, or to solving a user problem that will have more impact. Yeah.
And I'm not saying about when you want to redesign, trying to find the measurement you're gonna measure. That's like you will never find it, or you will find it, and what I usually say to any product design redesigns is like, if you don't break the metric, it's the best redesign you did. So if any metric doesn't go down, it's amazing. So you changed it, it's probably smoother and it's great. If you try to find like a value to design change, it's not that easy most of the cases because it's impacted by 25 different things. So it's a combination. Those problems are wicked, as we were talking.
Yes.
Like they're not just this checkbox was pissing me off. Like this happens a lot of times also, like with just wrong decisions. But a lot of those problems are impacted by something else. Like the problems that are shown usually in measurements of actions or stuff like this. Yeah. So, system level thinking.
Yeah, so as you were saying, we have our list of topics and we're like connecting from one another. So, as well as the product grows and it becomes bigger and bigger, as a designer, you need to start having this system thinking. So start having this vision that the product it's made out of different parts that connects, and probably these parts are handled by different teams, right? So everything becomes more and more complex. And understanding what's going to be next, which in a way the roadmap it's telling us this, helps us have a vision of the system and a vision of where we are going and how the solution we are working on right now can fit in the current product and will fit in the future. Sorry. So let me give you a super simple example. This summer, we were during the pandemic. We were working in the video consultation tool for the doctor, and I remember the roadmap at that time was done super fast. I remember because of the situation, but the thing is that it's a super simple example. You're designing the video consultation tool and you're placing the buttons and the different parts of the video, like the camera, the silence, maybe share screen and stuff. And I remember there was this conversation like, are we going to add a chat in the future or not? And it was super important to know that we were going to add a chat, that we decided that in the future we will do that, because then the whole screen might change based on that. So you need room for the chat, you need room for the user to interact with that. So understanding what are going to be the next features that will be added in the near future, because you don't really know like what's gonna happen in 2 years, helps you create much more scalable solutions, and as well helps you reduce this UX legacy that you always have. But if you at least know a bit what's going to come in the future, you can think of more scalable solutions that will produce less legacy, and it will help you as well in the creation of interaction patterns for your platform, because even if there is
and patterns are super important.
Patterns are super important.
Tell me,
yes. Why would you say?
I was going to say that patterns are also super important, like product level. So at some point when the company grows and the product grows and the system is really huge, you need to have some fallback mechanisms. So you think about the ideas, and then you should have, or it's much better when you have patterns for them. Let's say from easy ones, like if you're showing someone reports, it's like precedence. So you know how reports you look in your system. So it's easy to produce another reports later. From design perspective, or like from even product perspective, reports are solved problem. You can throw new ones. There needs to be solved from what data gonna be shown and stuff like this, but the solution itself is gonna be similar. Or in our case, we also have something that's like external applications, right? And then our own applications that are additional applications. So, and different people are building them in different moments from different places. So we needed some patterns. So we know that now they have wizards, and you have screens to authorize them, deauthorize them, and all of them are in one place. So whenever you want to build like an additional feature to our software, it's defined how the process is gonna look like. So you don't need to think about how the wizard should look like, because they're already designed. So you just take the UI kit and you reproduce that with your data, and the problem you want to solve is just the application itself, not the setup process and everything else.
So,
or from technical side, it's like you want to log in users with Google. For any framework on the planet, there is a solution made for logging in with Google. And it's just 5 lines of code and you're done, everything's good. So patterns are amazing.
Yeah, there are patterns, as you said, that are like common to different applications in the market that we all use, but then there are the ones that you generate, as you said, for your platform. And these, they are not only, so you were saying it helps us like work more efficient, faster, you already have the solution, but it's also super good for the user as well, because he has like less cognitive load, let's say, because the user already learned how to do something in the platform, and it's gonna be the same all the time. But for this, you really need to have a super good sync with the other teams, because there are like different roadmaps for each team happening at the same time. So you need to be careful you're not creating a feature, creating a pattern, and at the same time in a different team someone is solving a similar solution but in other part of the product, and it's creating a different pattern. And this is something that we need to take care.
Yeah, and synchronization is important on any level. So the same like on product managers in Doc Planner. So for example, what we do is we try to set the team's goals in a way that they're taking the full responsibility for the domain. Not the domain technical means, but it's like you need to generate patient bookings. So that's your goal. So yes, the easy one is the online calendar, but you can do 20 other things in SaaS that also gonna generate patient bookings in a way. So that's just the goal. That's talking about something. Other team, we have about finances. The goal is to make managing finances easy, and then how you solve it is up to the team. But what it gives us on like product managers level is whenever we talk to each other, we talk about the whole domain. So I can talk about EHR and plans for EHR and what's going to happen and then we have someone talking about finances. While inside of them there are thousands of single features and bugs and feature requests and roadmaps and features to build. But we are able to synchronize okay-ish on this level. The other approach that's shown a lot in product companies is trying to put the teams as the team that is like onboarding the user, then engaging him, and then keeping engaged, and then preventing the churn. So this way we also can kinda protect yourself from overfloating, to have like two teams working on exactly the same thing. But that's on our level. But then I guess on a solution level, when you're creating another screen or trying to create a pattern, it's even more important to find all of those people that may work on something similar, to sync with them, to not reinvent the wheel two times. So
it's the same, but on the solution level. So you said each product manager has his like own domain, and the designer working for that team has his own part of the product as well, that he's in a way the owner. Well, maybe not the owner, but more like the expert. So because they maybe built that part. So in my case, it's our team. It's the health records of the patient. We redesigned that one from scratch, and I can say I'm kind of the owner or the more experienced designer in that screen. So which this means is that whenever any other team wants to add something on that screen, they normally come and ask like if this place where I'm adding makes sense for the whole interaction in that part of the product or for the whole screen. And same thing for instance for the finances. There's another designer who is like more like the owner of all the financing part. And then if I need to add something on the, I don't know, invoices page, I will go and double check with this person if I'm not like breaking any pattern and if it makes sense. And yeah, we do things as well and updating every day. This is super important.
Yeah, but in our case, I guess, but tell me if I'm wrong, I guess it also helps a bit that we do have UI kit and a lot of our solutions are, let's say, similar. There's, they solve different problems, but I guess it's getting easier and easier.
Yes, but
navigate around.
Yes,
no?
but we have UI kit, but we don't have yet like a proper design system. And the difference is maybe, okay, we have a super good UI kit. I'm really super happy. This helps you really be super efficient. But our UI kit is made out of components. So you have drop downs, you have buttons, you have menus. But we don't have yet, we're working on it, but we don't have yet like a proper system, design system. So how all the navigation should work, or how to, introduce new information on a page. We're working on that. That would be like the next level. So yeah.
Yeah. On the product we're working, on this external roadmap. So it's always something to work on in these kinds of companies.
Yeah, because we are growing. So the bigger the product becomes, the more this kind of tools you need, and you need new ways of syncing and working together and being efficient as well, and not like solving the same problem again and again and again from scratch.
Yeah, and I guess in those cases, roadmaps in all of their shapes and sizes and ways can help a lot. I guess they can be really useful. And I would point out again, just think twice about what you say to whom. Not in terms of hiding stuff, but in terms of form of what you're explaining. Okay. So explanation of features is not always the best way to explain some stuff. Sometimes zooming out to the problem is better. So the part I was talking about, the different types of the roadmaps that you can produce, it's really important. It helps a lot to have a more educated conversations. And you can operate all of them. So even in our team, we talk a lot about tasks and like features and solutions, but from time to time we also use the other one where it's like more problem centric and picking what's gonna be next and why we're thinking on some problems and trying to validate if we even want to start working on them. So it's like you use them in the right moments with the right people in the right moment of their moment. That's a great definition, isn't it?
Yeah, so each role has the level of information they really need to do their job.
Yeah.
But on the one that it's more close to the solution, the one you would share with the team, or the way you would share it with the team, on this one I would say that it's so one of the core skills of the designers is problem solving and ideation. And so I think that there's a risk when doing this roadmap for the team level to give a solution too much detailed or too much solved already, because then you're losing the opportunity to make the most out of the team to probably find a better solution or a different one.
I believe in two things. So I believe in laziness.
Laziness.
So yeah, I really strongly believe that's one of the things I believe in, and the other thing is making other people heroes. So so the first one, laziness, is like I'm a really lazy person. So building a roadmap for a team to execute, like building tasks or sprints or anything else, is I don't want to do it. Like it's easy. I really don't believe I'm the best person, and I'm bored when I'm doing that. And then the other comes from Reid Hoffman, that believes like if you make someone else's story like a great story and that person gonna be hero in their story, you're gonna be fine too. So it's much more important about making others being heroes in their stories than making yourself a hero and creating stuff and being this Wizard of Oz. So the common practice I do for whole my life is letting the team create this. Like, you know, in our case, it's always, I'm not writing any tasks, but they always exist. Like, you know, at some moment you create a task, and I use it as a short-term roadmap for myself, think like what we have there, what we don't have, and when more or less it's gonna be delivered. And it is produced by you. What I produce and what I share is more this problem space, and like, hey guys, we have those problems, and I like problems. I like defining problems. I like thinking about how these problems are bad and impactful people. And then, you know, you're the ones that can create the solution, and everybody's there having, like, you know, being a hero in their own story. And I'm, you know, as a product manager, I'm much happier seeing the product team showing the features and understanding why they're important and how it's gonna change the behavior of the user and how it's gonna impact the goal, than people showing on the demos that, hey, we did the feature, it works like this, thank you very much. So, and you can see it, like years ago when we had demos, we're much more centric about the solution and what the solution does. When we now record Loom videos, and you know, you're our main YouTuber here, you start with why we built something and how it changes and what they can do with that, and not, hey, we have a drop down and it has 5 options. No, it's not that important. So it's a different mindset. And then according to this mindset, you pick the roadmap.
Still, it's not like a super open problem. So it's, I mean, in the roadmap, there should be some level of solution in a way, right? Or at least in, I don't know.
Boundaries.
Yes, boundaries. That's the yeah, because otherwise, if it's super open, it's gonna be super tricky to find the solution, and you might not be in the right path. So it's the whole thing about boundaries is like, first we need to check. It's coming back a bit to problem and then solution and product market fit. So it's okay.
First we try to validate how big of a problem it is. So how much money we can get from it, or how impactful it can be, or whatever. And then what you do while trying to shape this definition of a problem to the team, you try to find a reality in which it's gonna be making an impact in a time you want to do it. So you need to cut parts of it. So you may know that some of part of the customers wants to have something amazing, I don't know, AI, but maybe that's not the most impactful group of the customers you want to talk right now with. So you may want to drop that out of scope. And it's just giving the team information that, hey guys, this may come in as a request or a feedback, or while working on a solution you may hear about it, but it's not important from company level. Let's not spend time there, because for some reason we believe it's not that important. Of course, as always, this can change. So, you know, during those talks you may find out that the thing we were thinking is not important becomes the main point, and then we can pivot, change it, and we're agile. But yeah, those boundaries are only for a team not to, you know, try to reinvent the wheel, or do something that's already done, or it's not important for some reason, which is always up to be challenged by the team. But this is the boundaries you should be setting, of more like what not to do and not the things that what to do.
Yeah, when ideating solutions, it's super important to have boundaries. Even if you go to design thinking, defining the problem as well, the definition of the problem should be balanced between being opened enough so you can be creative, but being narrowed enough so you can actually find the solution to it, right? So imagine you have the problem definition of how would you change the internet? I mean, it's like, how do you even start solving that, you know? So you need to be a bit more constrained, really. So
in Basecamp, in the book called Shape Up, they say it needs to be you need to be sure that there is some solution within the reality. So you know, you're like, okay, so if they build anything around this, it's gonna solve problems. Like the boundaries are close enough that whatever gonna be built solves something, and it's worth solving because you're talking about bets and it's a lot of time, and we should be spending time on things that make sense and not.
So the one other thing I wanted to mention which I find I don't know, interesting, and it's also something we need to pay attention to as designers. So as we said, when you have a bigger product, you might have different teams focusing on different areas of the product, and each of the team has his own roadmap, and each product manager has his own like problems that they are solving, which translate in features they are adding. And so the thing that happens sometimes is that whenever you're releasing a feature, you feel like this is the most important feature, right now, because it's the one I'm delivering. It's new for the user and it's solving the problem, and you're adding that to the screen, and you want it to be super prominent. But then another team comes with the next one, and they want as well to be super prominent because it's now the new thing, the very important problem they are solving, and it can continue like that. And it's a risk that you will lose the hierarchy of the page, and you will lose the focus of the jobs that the user wants to do. Like, which one is the main one he came to the page to do? Which one is the secondary? Which one is maybe less important? So as a designer, it's super important to be aware of all these features that are being added, and what is being doing in your team and in other ones, and don't lose the focus on the jobs to be done. So the jobs that the user came to the screen to do. Because when you're releasing new features, you're always super excited, and you always think that's the most important thing, and you really want the user to use it next. But maybe it's not like the main thing for that part of the product.
Yeah, and it's also important for like a strategy level, or when you're thinking about planning stuff for people. These kinds of things are also important, because when you're adding those features, it's always cool to add all of those features, and the screen gonna grow, and you're gonna have more rich feature set. But at some point, a lot of your feature requests or problems of your users may come from overcomplication of the system. So it's always healthy to just retroactively think about the actions the users do, like even from product perspective. Like, okay, so what the hell we have, and why do they use that? Because at some moment, when you have enough features, there may be opportunities. So sometimes maybe a redesign of 3 features combined may bring much more value, because maybe it's just like one job that now lives in 3 screens, but you didn't have those 3 screens earlier, so you didn't knew that this is like a one job that now can be like redesigned or rethought. So it's always worth looking back and then checking like what the users really do there, because one thing is the redesigns, but automations, things like this. So once you have those features, I really like start removing it. So okay, you've built everything, so now think about how you can make the screen blank and just so it's like, I would like to learn German, but I will spend 0 hours on learning it. And then once you can bring me a solution, that's a perfect solution. And this is what we are going for, right? So we want to build the perfect solution. So even in terms of features, I always encourage everybody to sometimes just look back and see if you don't have enough, blocks now to create something even more impactful than before. In cases of companies like ours, where we have like tons of products right now, and 2,000 people working, so that's like enough creativity to reinvent stuff from time to time.
Yeah, I really liked what you said about removing things, because as well in design there's this tip for for good design in a way, which is try to remove as much as you can in the screen until you cannot remove anything else, and then to simplify.
Yeah, works usually, or at least it's a super good exercise of thinking about
yes,
a speed of a user, what's going on, what are the interactions. So, do we have any more topics for today?
No, today we talked a lot. I'm checking the time now, and it's like, wow, this is going to be a super long one. So, but yeah.
I think valuable one. I liked it a lot. Maybe let's sum up a bit. So roadmaps should show you a vision and direction for like short-term goals of a team. We talked that you can produce different kinds of roadmaps. So the roadmap for like internal team looks a bit different than the one you should show to executives, and then sales teams may, expect something else. And the main tip from the product guy today is really think about the form of the information you're showing connected to the person. So think about the context that the person is working on, and use the right one when showing the roadmap to show the right value for the audience.
Exactly. And you also explained the tool you use for measuring for prioritizing.
Yeah.
So the impact, confidence, effort that you use, impact, confidence, effort, the I scoring, to communicate to the team and to prioritize the backlog.
One day we can do another episode about prioritization frameworks. There's plenty of them. It's an interesting topic. There's a lot of different things there. So, yeah. And then, are there any tips you would leave for our design listeners about today's episode?
Yes. So, if you don't know why you're working on a feature or on a project instead of another one, try and look for that information. So be super aware of this, because that's core to find super good solution for your user. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So thank you very much for today's episode.
Yeah. Thank you. We hope you enjoyed this episode. If you want to continue the conversation and challenge our thoughts, mention us on Twitter. We are at 2Facet Podcast. If you have any questions you would like us to answer in the next episodes, send us an email to 2facetpodcast@gmail.com. And if this content was useful for you and you would like to support our work, there is a few simple things you can do. Share it with anyone you think may benefit from this content. Subscribe or follow the podcast in the platform where you are listening now. And if you are on Apple Podcast, a rating and a review will be much appreciated. Thank you for listening, and until next time.